first, why did you decide to run?
I've been in law enforcement going on 14 years. Me being with the Sheriff's Department, I was working in the violent crimes unit. I worked homicides, aggravated assaults, sexual assaults. I started to see a trend in violence as far as our youth, repeat offenders, and it was happening in like the same low poverty areas. And I want to see an administration that was reflective of getting to the root of gun violence, pretty much taking a proactive approach to figuring out why it's happening in particular areas versus being reactive all the time.
So you say you want to be proactive. Do you have a plan for that?
Yeah, so what I would like to do is pretty much for like our youth is create like pre-trial diversion programs, giving them pathways. I remember talking to a judge at one point in time, and like I said, this is mainly focusing on the youth. And at sentencing, really the only place they have to send them is like either RYDC or give them an ankle monitor. But pretty much educational programs, mental abuse programs, substance abuse programs, and just give them different pathways. At sentencing, the judge will be able to be like, hey, we have this particular program hosted through the Sheriff's Department, and as a condition of your probationary period, we're going to give you a chance to go get your GED, or we're going to give you a chance to go to the military. Just something proactive in making them positive members of society, holding them accountable and making them responsible adults. But just having that there, something to lean on versus you do your time and you go back into community with, nothing other than just being sentenced.
Tell me about, I could guess maybe that also might be your top priority as, if you were elected, but let me ask, what would be your top priority if you were elected sheriff?
So my number one priority would be building manpower, and doing so is building the morale of the department, implementing new strategies as far as hiring to get more deputies in. I feel like that's one of the biggest issues that we face, and I feel like if anybody was to win, they're going to continue to have the same issues if the manpower issue isn't fixed. But fixing the manpower issue reduces crime. It reduces the call response time. You can get back to community policing. You can fully staff the jail. I feel like it'll clear up a lot of the issues that we see today.
Excuse me. I was trying not to cough while you were answering. I don't want to mess up your answer. Excuse me. Okay. Thank you for that. Want to also ask you about, there's crime prevention, right? And then there's crime solving, right? Where you're arresting people, bringing them into the jail, into the criminal system. And they are supposed to move along through the judicial system after they enter the criminal system. Can you talk about what appears to be a lack of prosecution here in Bibb County causes a backup on the criminal side?
That causes a backup. So for me, I'll just give you the process. Me working in the violent crimes unit, for me, how a process normally works, it starts off on patrol, the deputy gets the case. If they needed an investigator, they call an investigator out. Once I receive the call, my job would be to investigate the situation, gather all the facts. Once I get enough facts, if that's available to make an arrest, we will pass it along to the district attorney's office or whatever. And once it gets to the district attorney's office, at that point, they would take over the case and they make the decision as far as if the case is going to move forward. I feel like that's kind of a two-question answer, because if you was to ask the district attorney's office, a reason for not prosecuting the case, they probably would tell you it was for lack of evidence through the Sheriff's Department. If I was to tell you, if I feel like I've done my part, I would tell you, I've done my part on the end of the case and I've given it to the district attorney's office. But I will say, me being an investigator and working for the Sheriff's Department, I haven't had an issue as far as sending the case through and the DA's office prosecuting it as it pertains to me.
So I hear you saying that there is the potential for finger pointing, I guess.
I would say so.
Between the two. Between the two. Do you think that there is a systemic problem with prosecutions moving forward in Bibb County?
In all honesty, the prosecution questions, I feel like that would be a district attorney's office answer. I don't work over there. I don't have, per se, a law degree to answer that question. I can't tell you the ins and outs, so that's kind of it would be subjective on my end, you know, as far as, like I say, I know how we operate with the sheriff, how we did operate with the sheriff's department, and as far as turning the case over, but as far as once they get it, I feel like that would be a question for the district attorney's office.
Okay, let me reframe
All
then.
right, okay.
Do you think that currently the Bibb County Sheriff's Office is doing an adequate job of providing evidence and information for prosecution to the district attorney's office?
When I was there as an investigator, I would say yes. And like I said, I work with different investigators, so we all had different experiences. I didn't experience that when it came to me and cases being sent through the district attorney's office. I didn't have that issue, but I can't speak for another case or another investigator. And different investigators take different approach, and different investigators put a different amount of work into the cases that they do. So like I said, I can only speak from my experience.
If you were leading the sheriff's office, would you like to see it be different?
I would like to work with everybody. I would like to make collaborative efforts in the best way possible to get the best results for a victim in a case. I would like to see cases, you know, pushed through faster. But at the same time, I don't work over there to know what their workload is. I know at one point, one of the issues that was talked about was the cases that were backed up possibly came from the previous administration. And this is all hearsay. Like I say, I don't work over there, so I can only go off the information provided.
Gotcha. We'll move on. Tell me about your plan for the Bibb County Jail.
So I do know that the mayor talked about putting the jail on the SPLOST, you know, giving a chance for the citizens to vote on it to rebuild. I'm all for building a new jail. I think a new jail is conducive to rehabilitation. I think criminal or not, you still should have humane, you know, conditions. They're still human beings. Also, providing a safe space for not just the inmates, but the employees that work in the jail. So it's very important. So when we think about a jail, I know a lot of times people will be like, well, if they weren't arrested, they wouldn't have to worry about it. But it's not just the criminals that's in jail. Like I said, they're still human beings. It's also employees, it's also medical staff, it's also civilian staff that work in the jail. So it's conducive to everybody as a whole.
Okay. You talked a little bit about your law enforcement experiences in terms of your qualifications.
Yes.
Running for sheriff. What do you specifically as an individual, what makes you qualified, the most qualified for the job?
So I know a lot of candidates, they'll tell you about their experience. You know, some worked on patrol or in the jail. I feel like I do have a broad, my experience is diverse. I started out working for the Georgia Department of Corrections. I worked in the state prison. From there, I went to work patrol. I worked investigations during my time in investigations. Like I told you, I worked homicide, I worked aggravated assaults, I worked sexual assaults. And then two, I feel like we see a lot of violence within our youth. And I do feel like currently the Sheriff's Department does hold like some policies that are a little outdated as far as when it comes to implement certain policies when it comes to the community. I feel like I am more relatable to the youth. I feel like I'm more understanding. I feel like right now the community needs a new, fresh perspectives instead of doing things the way that we're used to or accustomed to doing.
Anything else that you would like to add? This is your one freebie.
All right. Well, I'll just say, as far as the Sheriff's Department, it's bigger than just the sheriff race for me. A lot of the things that I talk about, I stand behind it. In my personal life, I've done several mentorships with different groups. I started out at 17, you know, with the upward program at like certain gyms in Macon. I'm a part of a nonprofit organization. It's called H2O. I did the Macon Mentors Project through June O'Neill. The I Am King Foundation is geared for young black male youth. Sorry to keep saying, but pretty much, like I said, I stand behind it. I do this in my personal life as well as with the Sheriff's Department. So again, I'm DeAndre Hall, and I don't know, come May 21st during the primary election, I hope I have the citizens of Macon-Bibb County's vote.